You are listening live from Coral Springs, Florida, where this afternoon, the Rude Dog Show and the Motor City Madmouth here on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network unite in crazy South Florida. And Rude Dog, now that we've had a chance to do a Super Bowl project together, okay, and the guy knows the difference between Dade, Broward, and he's about to learn Palm Beach County, what are your thoughts about our dynamic Tri-County area?
You know, I like it here. It's a place where lots of people come to patronize, but I'm not patronizing. I'm just merely saying there's a lot of people in Miami. Less in Fort Lauderdale, but more in Miami. We had a lot yesterday going on. It was a very busy day yesterday, but our impact was absolutely fantastic. We reached out. We talked to a lot of people. We had Justin Simmons on, Howard Balzer.
Eric Kipple was on there.
Eric Kipple was there. He was absolutely fantastic. And I think more importantly, it was really the sense of what we got from all the players. I mean, Solomon Wilcox was there, Rod Woods. I mean, the who of who was there at this, minus the who and no Robert Daltrey, if you can make that reference to who the who is. But and this isn't a Dr. Seuss book either. But, you know, we really got a lot of great things out of that media day, that one lowly day where we just had one day to do as much as humanly possible. And everybody else just kind of came with it. So it was a great outcome.
Yeah, well, who can forget the fact that you and I were able to go to the Fox press conference and had a chance to get a little bit of sound. I got another nice picture with Joe Buck and a great interview with Mike Pereira. So, you know, listen, we piled a lot into a one day, but you and I are animals. We're outright animals. You and I are proven on our broadcast, okay, and tell them what it is.
Well, it's it's a Motorman and Rude Dog podcast. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And I think you're talking about the Fox conference.
Yeah.
We were really able to get a lot out of it. Talked to a lot of great people. I interviewed Troy Aikman. He was there. He was fantastic. Of course, couldn't get a word in edgewise because either he was talking a lot or the people asking him questions were just firing away questions to him left or right. Erin Andrews was there. She was on point. A lot of people were talking about women's rights in the NFL and having a female referee in the regular season and the postseason play as well to call some of these fouls, some of these penalties rather, on the sidelines. A lot of female coaches. Jen Welter was there as well. So a lot of progression for women in sports, and I think it's just going to become that much better from that standpoint. Michael Vick was across the way, and I'm not going to give the whole interview away because it's just one of those things I don't want to do. But you see Michael Vick there, and you're just kind of wondering, is that tattoo still on the side of his neck? Yeah, the tattoo's still on the side of his neck, which doesn't take away from the topic or what we were actually talking about, which was Lamar Jackson. Where does he rank? Where is he going to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Maybe in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as long as he keeps the kind of play style and his type of fluidity outside of the pocket, as well as making smarter decisions inside the pocket, get rid of the ball when he needs to. It was fantastic. It was a great experience all the way around.
Yeah, my experience with Mike Pereira was really good because it allowed me to really show my age and my birth certificate by being able to go out there and talk about the days when once upon a time CBS did the NBA. And you don't want to hear my singing voice, but you'll hear it anyways. You'll see the best in basketball when you watch the NBA on CBS. And if you have a Memorex, okay, and you're looking to break a glass, you probably got an opportunity to do that. Or maybe this is a bad alarm clock here, which probably will wake you up out of bed after listening to that rendition of Once Upon a Time, the NBA on CBS.
I'm already awake. Honestly, I do not remember that.
Yeah, but if you were, well, of course.
Before my time.
Yeah, it's like you're 11 years younger than I am. You would remember it.
I don't get that at all.
But at any rate, I think what was nice about it, my time with Mike Pereira, however, was I talked about Mindy Rudolph of CBS, who was one of the first pioneers and actually going ahead and bringing referees behind the microphone. And now, obviously, once Mike Pereira got on, the rest of the networks are following suit because we all know that life is a copycat type of thing. Many years ago, we'll take you back in time, when the Detroit Lions introduced the two tight ends with David Hill and Charlie Sanders, the Dallas Cowboys implemented that, two tight ends. And then when we needed the shotgun, okay, and Roger Staubach, everybody's using the shotgun. Who the hell in their right mind would copycat if it's good, or would call it copycat?
It's no copycat at all.
Exactly.
You gotta think about this is a copycat league. Other teams learn from other dynamics and other things and other types of play calling. Look, there's no way you can tell me that one particular team is not going to use something that the other team is using. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to put that in my handbook. I'm going to make sure I write that down because we're going to use it later on. It's really about understanding the game. Jimmy Johnson really made a solid reference to this yesterday when I was talking to him, like everybody else was talking to him. But he was talking about the Dolphins, talking about the Cowboys. And of course, he doesn't get paid to coach a team anymore. But what he does understand is drafting the right players, going about it the right way, making sure that those players are not only just physical, but they're very intelligent, and they exhibit that in the classroom, exhibit that in the film room, being able to diagnose offense, being able to diagnose the defense as well, and really making a run. Jimmy Johnson won a Super Bowl. It just stands to reason that he adapted a lot of things that he recognized throughout his coaching career,
right?
And hopefully other teams will pay adherence to that. So you know what? Jimmy knows what he's talking about, and when I was listening to him, it was like it was complete fluidity. He almost didn't stop, and at times it almost sounded as if he was frustrated. People were talking about Jerry Jones and the fact that Jason Garrett couldn't get it done in Dallas, and he was very adamant about how maybe this is the right fit for him somewhere else and not necessarily in the Cowboys system. Of course, right. Kellen Moore is there. He's the new. He's going to be the play caller. Mike McCarthy is a guy, already won a Super Bowl. He did it with Brett Favre, did it with Aaron Rodgers. He's already been there, done that. I think more importantly, from Jimmy Johnson's standpoint, it's him being able to analyze all 32 teams, being objective about those 32 teams, and because he's been there, done that for many years, you know as well as I do,
right,
Scott, that he's a guy that's going to help others adapt and be that much better if they would just listen to what he was saying.
Right. Well, the one thing I can say about Jimmy Johnson, and by the time I got around saying anything to him, I just said, your restaurant's really good in Key Largo. I enjoy it. Boom. That was about it. But I'll just say this about Jimmy Johnson. Here's a guy that won 2 championships with the Dallas Cowboys, and he should have won 3, but Jerry Jones decided to part company, and Barry Switzer got the gift of a lifetime. And no, I'm not talking about a piece of jewelry from Jared. I'm talking about a piece of jewelry from Jimmy. Okay, because Barry Switzer had nothing to do with it. All he was just say, I can motivate Jimmy's players, not mine, okay? And all of a sudden, you find yourself in a unique part of history where you won a championship in college and pros, even though that one he didn't deserve, and Jimmy should own 3. But justice was served this year. Jimmy Johnson's going to the Hall of Fame, period. Barry Switzer is not going in the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because after all, he's just lucky to get that piece of jewelry.
Barry Switzer was fortunate to even have a coaching job in the NFL. To be quite honest with you, I understand he proved it at the collegiate level, but the fact alone that he was able to go in with players that already belong to a Super Bowl winning coach in Jimmy Johnson. Now you can have the same conversation about what happened when Coach Bill Cowher left the Steelers. Here comes Mike Tomlin. After so many years, so many failures, so many epic playoff problems that Bill Cowher had, Bill Cowher now going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
It was announced that on the CBS set.
Right.
Whether or not they play partiality, we were talking to Howard Balzer yesterday in regards to who gets in, what's the criteria. We don't really know exactly. He's not going to say it anyway, even if he's not.
Well, no, that's where you're dead wrong. And hear me out, okay? I'm challenging you on this one, okay?
All right.
I'm challenging you. Guys like Howard Balzer have been doing it for a long time, and they know the inner workings of how the politics are played. That's why I brought that question up in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I know, having covered 4 Super Bowls, he's not the only writer that I've ever spoken to, just the only writer that I've actually taken it to this extreme to give me the inner workings of the whole thing.
Granted.
So there is a lot of politicking. For example, when Derek Thomas was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he had to wait a year, and then we got this guy in. It's just a politicking game amongst everybody is what it is. But Howard gave you more in-depth information, okay, than a lot of people, because we had the time, and I set up the question in such a manner that obviously he was able to give us what we needed, and he was great about doing it.
Right. Well, we're not going to give the entire interview away.
Well, no. I'm just trying to go ahead and whet your appetite about it. Is all
I'm talking about how politics, and we were talking about this with Howard as well,
right? About
how for some reason Drew Pearson may never get in. He's been on the finalist list for how many years and never got the chance to go in. A lot of guys have been that way as well. I'm sure they were in very similar situations. My question is I understand the criteria. I understand that it has been 100 years worth of NFL talent to start the boards, and we talk about the early goings with the Steelers in 33, Lions in 34. You could talk about all these teams that have so many fantastic players that you're not going to get in on the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time.
Right.
I mean, heck, their guy's been waiting there for 14 years.
Well, heck, you know what? Floyd Little, a guy in Denver, ultimately got in. Okay, we're not in a position where I care about when Terrell Owens got in, so you got to go to Tennessee and not show up Denton. I don't care. That's the biggest farce I've ever seen. Really, Terrell, get over it, man.
Well, Terrell's one of those guys that, and me and him had kind of a Twitter spat, if you will.
Right.
That he was trying to call out how he wasn't getting into Hall of Fame, and that Emmitt Smith himself should have been paid for all that time and effort and energy with a new contract, because he'd already proven himself time and time again that he can get it done with every carry that he made. I mean, he led them to multiple Super Bowls, so it's not as if Emmitt Smith wasn't worth the shake, but Terrell Owens had skipped around from here to there to here to there. He was the Eagles. He was,
and I wonder why.
Well,
he wore out his welcome everywhere he went. Well, really? You're going to bring your agent over to your house that you're going ahead lifting weights. You're going to throw your damn quarterback under the bus, not throwing and then you're blasting every offensive coordinator. You can't get along with your own damn shadow. Really? There comes a point where, it's one thing in our industry to move from job to job to job, because you're actually trying to go out there and find an opportunity until you reach where you want to go. This guy was moving around from team to team to team, albeit he didn't kill anybody or smack anybody around, because he wore out his welcome everywhere, and he couldn't get along with his own shadow alone, whether it's an offensive coordinator or head coach. And that's, I think, probably, even though morals and ethics aren't supposed to be incorporated into the voting, that doesn't mean that you're going to wonder whether the guy was a cancer inside of a locker room, because a lot of these guys are. He's just smart enough that he never took it Antonio Brown territory that filmed the stupid thing. Don't get me wrong, Rudy. Terrell Owens is arguably one of the best wide receivers, in football. He got in there, not like he waited 5 or 10 years, but when there's a log jam at a certain position, certain guys are going to get in there ahead of others, Randy Moss over Terrell Owens. Who would you take?
Oh, so Randy Moss.
Me too.
Twice on Sunday.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm telling you.
There's a reason to take him. I think Terrell Owens, to a certain extent, did have a valid argument. The problem I have with Terrell Owens is that he made it a federal case every single year. He over-exacerbated the ability for him to get into a finals conversation to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, if we take positions out of it, right? We're not talking about free safety, we're not talking about corners, nickelback, we're not talking about any position. If we're talking about players, guys who played humbly, who knew and recognized that every single down could be their last down. We've seen it with Andrew Luck this past season. He called it quits after he had been in the league for no more than 7 years. So you tell me, a guy in his position with his capabilities, he could have played easily another 5 or 6 years.
Right.
Easily. But the reason why he didn't get in, and he'll probably never get into the Hall of Fame, maybe the Ring of Honor for the Colts as far as that's concerned, if they have such a thing there, it's because of the kind of person that he was, the leader that he was in the locker room. Why Terrell Owens didn't get that is because of all those shenanigans, because of the cup of popcorn that he decided to throw in his face, pulling a Sharpie out of his
actually, I
liked that
one. I thought it was good.
It was funny, but again, at the same time, those are the types of shenanigans that voters have to look at. Is this guy a team obliterator?
Right.
Again, you brought up Antonio Brown. Good example of it. Matter of fact, the judge just released him off of house arrest today.
Right.
By the way. Whether or not they removed the ankle bracelet, or if he wants to wear it as okay. I didn't know if he wanted to wear it.
I looked into that.
If he wanted to wear it around his neck or anything like that, as some type of badge.
I think a lot of things he should wear around his neck today. Maybe the broadcast that he mentioned.
Maybe a collar, muzzle.
I don't have a noose around his neck.
A muzzle. That probably would have been better.
Okay.
But I think Antonio Brown, one of those guys that imploded himself, and the reason why he got kicked off of all these teams was because of things that he was doing outside of the league, right? Whereas Terrell Owens was a guy who was a team obliterator inside the locker room, on the field, and making everybody just look stupid.
Right.
Instead, it backfired on him. That's why it's taken so long for voters to get in. Now, again, we're not talking about position. We're talking about players. We're talking about from the perspective of, are they going to be on the field and be the contributors? Are they going to be in the locker room and be the leaders? Are they going to be the guys that these teams need to help move them in different ways?
Right.
I'll go back to Jimmy Johnson for a minute. Jimmy Johnson has stated that it's not about the players they get, it's the type of picks that they make and the guys that actually stick, right? Case in point, Minka Fitzpatrick leaves the Miami Dolphins because he was playing out of position. He was playing the nickel,
Right.
He wasn't playing corner. He was playing the nickel. He's not great in the nickel. He knows that.